So welcome everyone to this afternoon's reading of the 2025 cohort of folks who were at the Mount in March of 2025. And I'm part of Straw Dog Writers Guild and was part of the residency selection committee. So for me, it's great to see folks that we had saw them last year, and to get a chance to hear everybody read. This was the fourth year of this iteration of Writers in Residency kind of program, and it was this year the first set of three writers came up with this idea of having a bit of a public reading at the end of their week. And so each of the cohorts did that. And I was so delighted that that they were doing that for each other and for the staff at the Mount, and for some of us from Straw Dog who came out to hear them read at the end of their stay. So we're going to have a taste of that. We're going to be I'm going to put in the chat two links for you. One is a link to, oh shoot, sorry, it's in the wrong. I had this chat to the participants in the waiting room, but that is not the place that I want to be putting it. So the two links are to Edith Wharton's website that has biographies of the 9 writers in residence from this year. And then there's a link to Straw Dog for the emerging writer fellow who was also a resident at the Mountain. So we're going to hear from Darlene was that resident. There's only one resident that wasn't able to come, Michelle Bombardier. Isn't able to be here, but her biography is included in there as well. So we're going to hear people by their cohorts. And so the first cohort was Irene Jiang, Lizzy Beck, and Brenton Zola. And so we're going to start with Irene. Each reader has about 5 minutes to read, and when you're done, then I'll just say thank you and announce the next reader. All right, Irene, over to you.
Hello, I'm Irene. Thank you for the introduction, and what a great way to begin a Sunday afternoon. Yeah, I guess I don't really know what else to say other than maybe talk about my novel a little bit. It's historical fiction. It's complete thanks to like the amazing energy at the Mount. Oh, really? Okay. How's this? Is this better? Yes. Okay. I can also move the mic closer. How is this doing?
It's a little better with the mic closer. Yeah.
Okay. All right. I'll set maximum now. All right. I'll just speak up. All right. Thank you for being here, and I'm excited to read. So I'll just get started. This is Immoral Purposes, and we'll start with the prelude. Look, on this day many years ago, on a bamboo raft in a river, a man holds his daughter's hand. The man is young, handsome, with sturdy black brows and warm, bright eyes. His daughter is no bigger than a clay pot of sorghum spirit, but she is the whole span of his world. Her dumpling feet are his earth, and the little buns on her head his heaven. He is her world too, for now, but her world will grow. It will grow to the size of a street, then a village, and one terrible day it will grow big enough to hold all the sorrow of his absence. After, it will grow to include the port city down south, and the steamer ships in the port city's harbor, and the ocean she will cross So many days wide she forgets how small her world once was and how lovely it was when it was small. Her world will grow larger still, larger than his ever was, larger than she ever imagined the world could be. She will battle monsters, ride with heroes, carve her names into the pillars of a nation. Her earth will sink, her heaven will rise, but at its center there will remain this smallest of worlds, the bamboo raft and the river, a long-necked bird swooping a silver fish from the water, mountains like green teeth against the sunny blue throat of the sky, and her father's steady hand holding hers, keeping her balanced, dry, safe. Chapter 1: Arrival. Until she came to this land, she had been a stranger to violence. She had been hopeful when the wagon first pulled into the shaded glen that was to be her new home. Perhaps her hope had been colored by relief, because the road from San Francisco had been long and bumpy and dusty and dry, and she'd had no protection from the sun, except for the thin cotton bonnet Madame Kin had given her as a parting gift. There was a little cabin of roughly hewn logs, and several other wooden structures she would come to know as the spring house, the smokehouse, and the tool shed. The style of their construction was unfamiliar, forceful, and utilitarian. Everywhere, planks warped and splintered in protest of their bondage. Angry gashes in the dirt spoke of past attempts at tilling. Mostly the soil was empty, but in some spots, spindly green sprouts clogged to the surface. She wondered what he had planted, this stranger with a rough, peppery beard and eyes like cold water, eyes that lingered too long, that made her feel like prey. In her father's house, there had been a garden, or at least an attempt at a garden. The loam had been too shallow, the bedrock too near the surface. She did not blame her father the way her mother did. He had worked the land diligently, nurtured each seed, built each tidy structure with care. It was not his fault that the heavens had ordained a 5-year drought, then sent a flood to wash away all he had built in that time. The man took her hand and helped her from the seat, a hard plank at the front of the cart that now felt fused to her bruised bones. And despite the coarseness of his palm and the calluses on his fingers, she thought perhaps he might be kind, or at least kinder than the men who had sullied her bed in Bartlett Alley. At least the cabin was bigger than her old room, though most rooms were bigger than a space which was no longer than the distance from her toe to her forehead, with a ceiling so low she often had to brush splinters from her hair between clients. In the cabin, the ceiling easily cleared her height, and there were 2 small windows, simple holes that let in the light from outside. Beneath one window was a wide iron poster bed with a thick quilt and, at its foot, a wooden chest. Across the room was a crude fireplace of mortar and river stones, a sitting chair, and a table with a small round mirror, a cracked basin, and a simple razor. It smelled like smoke and stale sweat, and though she was grateful for the shade she felt, her lungs constrict in the stagnant air. She caught a glimpse of her face in the mirror and touched her cheek. Her skin had turned 3 shades darker from the sun. Would he still find her appealing? She didn't know if she wanted him to, though she knew that was likely why he had taken her. She still did not fully understand the circumstances of her transfer from the alley to the stranger, only that he had won a game of cards and that the madam had given her to him as some sort of prize. She still did not understand how a person could be treated like a gold necklace or a suckling pig, or what had happened to her agreement with Ho Tai Ko, what had happened to the paper she could not read but had signed in her thumb's blood. She wondered if Ho Tai Ko had kept his promise to her, if he had paid Mama a portion of her earnings so Mama could feed the son she had always wanted and had finally been blessed with late in her years. What she understood, what Madame Kin told her, was that she would work off the rest of her debt here. The first 4 years for the original payment to Mama, those were done. But then there was the cost of passage across the sea, which Ho Tai Ko only mentioned once the ship had already docked in San Francisco, and that would be another 2 years, plus the cost of her room and board at Madame Kin's 1 more year. 3 years left on her contract. She had escaped the skin-eating death that was the fate of so many girls in Bartlett Alley. 3 years in this alien place, and then she would be free to go home or start anew. She would be free to choose. It at once terrified her and thrilled her, the idea of choice. Who would she be as a free person? A daughter, a wife, a worker, or something wild and yet undefined? That's it.
Wow. Thank you so much. I just want to say that on from the very first, you had me in there, and that on a bamboo raft in a river, and the whole span of his world, and big enough that there'll then be a gap big enough to hold all the sorrow. And the planks splintered in protest of their bondage. They're just such beautiful language in there. Thank you so much, Irene.
Thank you for letting me share. Thank you so much.
So next we have Lizzy Beck. Thank you for reading for us, Lizzy.
So happy to. Can you guys all hear me okay? And thank you so much, Irene. It was wonderful to read after you, and it's really special to be here and reading with this very special group of writers. I'm going to read 2 poems. The first one, my daughter's birthday is coming up, and the title of the poem comes from something that she said to me one time. So this poem is called I Love You to the Earth and Back. I love you to the earth and back. Some children love their mothers all the way to Pluto. Round trip, 6 billion frozen miles. Shouldn't my daughter's love at least escape the atmosphere? She stands just 3 feet tall, so stands her love. A pretty little love of clover, plantain, dandelion weed, that hair-capped moss, this helicopter maple seed. Or is it that her love drills down below the known beloved grass to crustal rock, striations of catastrophe and change, and into regions so interior, so raw, that love is melted out, burned clean away? And back, she says. All daughters leave and come back new. Some as pressure-blasted diamond, rigid, hard, and gleam. Some fire-born dynamic island, feral chickens peering here and there amidst the green. So that's the first one. It used to be a sonnet, and then I cut a line out, so now I don't know what to call it. And I'm just gonna read one more. And this poem you will hear is set, in this very particular time in April, and it was, I think, the first solid individual poem that I wrote after leaving them out. And so I thought it would be fun to read that one here today. It's called Violin. Violin. Outside the window of my parents' apartment on Riverside Drive, over the budding trees and the coordinated April yellows, daffodil, forsythia, a hawk flies past, too sudden for binoculars, carrying in its talons a living meal. Whatever it's holding looks so huge, struggles so little. They run to the window, my parents, my children. A pigeon? No, says one, it's a giant rat, the hawk a tooth and claw functionary from the sanitation department, which used to be run by a woman who now, in this city, is chief of police. When the hawk circles near enough, I see its prey is feathered. Pigeon, then. I think rarely of the violin, or of the boy in school, we were no older than 2nd grade, who brought his instrument to music class. The teacher sat us on the rug. I see him tilting his head, his hair at odds with itself, dragging his bow scrapingly across the strings. If someone had given me the choice, sit and listen for a while to this proud child mutilate his violin, or hurtle through the air clasped by the animal who will eventually eat you, I would have chosen to be the pigeon. 4 years later, 5, he asks me out. No one else yet has. His hair backlit against our classroom's second-story window. I think I said I was a pigeon, but don't believe I didn't sense along my edges my first raptor feathers. Unmistakable, their notches and emarginations. Thank you.
Thank you, Lizzy. So those two, I love that, that I love you to the earth and back, and shouldn't it have a little bit more, like at least a rise above the atmosphere? And but then the sort of the surprise of and back, and daughters leaving and coming back again, and in the second one, just the dynamic of the pigeon, hawk, his claw and hand from the sanitation department. Thank you. I'm seeing okay, I saw a hand raised, but I think that might have been an accident. Maybe it was like a thumbs up, yay. All right, so our next reader is Brenton Zola, and we look forward to hearing your reading, Brenton.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Irene and Lizzy. It was so lovely spending time with you. And Lizzy, you and I are matching, which is great, even better. I'm going to read the prologue of my novel, Psalms of Our Blood. It is based on the life of an African freedom fighter named André Blouin, who appeared in the film Soundtrack for a Coup d'etat. And it is about her time during the Cold War, trying to expose an American military secret where the United States had discovered the world's richest uranium mine, which powered the atomic bombs of World War II. And so this is the beginning of her life when she starts off in a convent. And each section in my novel is named after one of the liturgy of the hours. So this is the opening, invitatory, 1930. The call that precedes all hours, inviting us to listen. Half. Blood. The legacy that bound me. On the night I was born in August 1930, blood came as a song. It rippled through Mama's womb and out into the jungles of Southeast Congo, where rotting tondolos snapped from their branches and the lake hummed a hemic hymn. My song emanated from a dusty Catholic clinic 5 miles from Maloba village. There, 3 nuns stood over a birthing table. Mother Colère, a Belgian woman with hooded eyes, wiped Mama's brow, whispered, "How small she is, how frail." Mama was barely 14. Little Josephine, Maloba's most gifted dancer, shining jewel of Southeast Congo, sprightly and headstrong with volcanic energy like Nyiragongo. She had mesmerized my father on the night they had met, stomping her feet under a sliver of moon, her breath hot in the misty air, the umber dust pluming around her ankles, the white pearl shimmering in her woven braids. "We speak to the earth through our feet," she'd say, and she was the best linguist of them all. Yet here Mama was, on a sterile bed yellowing from overuse, feverish and half-conscious. Mother Colère drilled her gaze into the young girl before her. Of the nuns, she had the most medical experience and the least tolerance for children. Now she had to help one little girl birth another. "If you want your baby to live, if you yourself want to avoid heaven's gates," she said, "push like you've never pushed before." And so Mama screeched. The metallic tang of iron stained the air, and a chorus of nightjars shrieked with a verse we all know. "Good Lord, deliver us." And so it was. As I entered the world, Mama lost consciousness, lost enough blood to fill the antechamber collection plates until they ranneth over. But she didn't lose her life. She held on to that life like a wild dog sinking its fangs into a first meal after a famine. And she passed that stubbornness on to me, the will to survive in a world that never gives you half a chance. Mother Colère called my father over, a stumpy 41-year-old Frenchman, covered in a strange black dust as if he had emerged from under the devil's toenails, and not much more handsome. The dust clung to him from the bowels of a place that would haunt my life, a place that didn't exist. His caravan of monstrous trucks at this time had already gouged our land, already mesmerized our village. He was the first Osungu to come to Maloba, a powerful man who could make or break dreams, a white man. Mother Colère scrutinized the bulbous nose expelling forceful air, the creases in the well-worn brow. There was nothing a Catholic nun could spot more easily than the residue of guilt. She didn't ask him to hold his new daughter, lips full, eyes dark. Instead, she told him of a Catholic orphanage opening near Elizabethville, exclusively for Métis girls, and I will oversee it myself. My father closed his eyes, nodded, rejected me mere minutes into my existence. That had to be a record. Still, Mama never gave up on me. In the short time we had, she carried me under Maloba's canopy of glades. Her wild, toothy cackle drowned out society's judgments. Half-breed, half-French, half-African, nothing worth a sum total of love. That's why the villagers told her not to name me. But Mama knew an even greater truth. A name is a spell, a conjuring. On my third day, Maloba's fearless daughter laid me in a cradle of vines. She pricked her fingertip, dipped it in the sand, and rubbed my forehead. She gave me her love and her protection. She gave me the gift of my own existence. I am the daughter of little Josephine, the granddaughter of Chief Zomage of the Painted Face. I am Yase.
Brenton, you paint an amazing world for us, and just the structure of the book, of each section being named after one of the hours, and blood came as a song, and how much blood she lost, but she didn't lose her life and passed this persistent stubbornness on to the child. And the half-breed, half-French, half-African was a thing. It was powerful. And this powerful white person who could, a powerful man who could break them, a white man, that too was a powerful phrase. Thank you. I'm looking forward to reading these books and this poetry collection when they come out. So that is our first cohort. And just want to say, yay, thank you. So the next one is Melenie and Zite, and they're missing their third person, but so the two of them will be the next ones up. And so Melenie, we're going to turn to you first, and thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Becky. Thank you for organizing this, and I'm so grateful to be here with such an extraordinary group of writers. I am going to read to you just from the very beginning of the memoir that I am working on right now. When I was at the Mount, that extraordinary week, I worked on a revision of this, and it was amazing to have that kind of focused time to see how much can actually happen in 1 week. So I'm just going to start from the very beginning. Chiseled in stone above the entrance to the library at the University of Oregon reads, "And the truth shall make you free." I shiver in a sharp blast of air conditioning as the heavy door swings shut behind me. Spring is on high in Eugene, and the air is soft with lilacs and cut grass as students mill about with bright green sweatshirts knotted around their waists, gripping paper coffee cups and glowing smartphones, laughter echoing off the walls. Following a sign that points to the Special Collections Library, I climb up the steps on wobbly legs, weary from my cross-country flight from Massachusetts, where spring is still a rumor. "I'm here to look through the Rajneesh archive," I say to the librarian with salt and pepper hair behind the front desk. I try to keep my voice steady as nerves swell in my chest. I called a few weeks back. Sure, she sets down her pen and peers around from behind the computer screen. What are you looking for in particular? I'm not exactly sure. I just thought I'd, take a peek through some things, I mumble, sounding about as far from scholarly as one can get. Okay, well, maybe I can help point you in the right direction. The Rajneesh archive is quite large. We have several collections within it. What's the focus of your research? Well, I take a deep breath and look around the library. There are 4 long oak tables in the center of the room. Bookshelves line the walls, and computer monitors glow from tidy workstations. A young woman in white gloves sits at one of the tables, peering into the pages of an old book with a magnifying glass, a notebook and pencil next to her. The librarian raises her eyebrows, and I worry that she smells the high school dropout on me. Depending on the situation, I can transform from a grown woman back to a frightened 16-year-old high school dropout with the speed and precision of a magician pulling a cape to make something disappear. Standing in front of the librarian, I'm suddenly small and awkward, realizing I have no real business in a special collections library, and I certainly don't know how to describe the purpose of me being in one. What can I possibly tell her? I'm looking for clues about why my parents wanted to be in Eastern Oregon with thousands of people dressed in red and wearing malas with a guru's photo on them. My father died, so I can't ask him, and my mom doesn't have a whole lot to say about it. So can you point me toward the stuff that will make this all make sense? I lived there when I was a kid, I stammer. I'm hoping to look through some photographs, newspaper articles, that sort of thing. The backs of my knees prick with sweat, and my face feels like it has burst into flames, even though the library is as frigid as a walk-in refrigerator. You lived on the ranch? The librarian smiles. Oh, I've met a lot of sannyasins from those days. When were you there? On and off from when I was 7, 8, and 9, 1983 to 85, I say, unclenching a bit because she called it the ranch instead of commune, or worse, compound, or cult. And she said sannyasin rather than Rajneeshi, a term that no sannyasin used. I'll tell you what, the sannyasins from the ranch I've encountered over the years are some of the brightest, most energetic, and happy people I've ever met, the librarian smiles again, tucking a strand of silvery hair behind her ear. Then, lowering her voice, I think the terrible stuff that happened was because of a few bad apples. It's too bad things turned out the way they did, you know? I nod. So, what can I get you started with here? As I take in a breath to respond, my father's voice sounds through me. Sweetheart, you don't want to write about the ranch. He appears in my head in a tiny wooden boat by himself, rowing, rowing, rowing. He's young, somewhere between boy and man, rowing with his heart on fire, rowing as angry waves threaten to swallow him whole. He rows faster, away from those dark hallways that beckoned, away from siren songs that tricked him more than once, away from spirits inside shiny glass bottles that drowned so many. Whiskey got him, he'd say. You stay away from that whiskey, Mel. It won't do anything for you but ruin you. He rows away from the whiskey, away from the monsters, away and away until his rowing away becomes rowing toward, to a place he can't see, but he knows is waiting. He just has to make it there. He names this place all sorts of things: destiny, fate, karma, the big score, the when I make it place. As a kid, riding along beside him, in the back seat behind him, my father's make it place swirled in my heart bright as starshine, a glowing emerald city waiting to fling open its gates as he followed his yellow brick road to the entrance of the ranch in Eastern Oregon. I look at the librarian and take another deep breath. It's clear that I haven't made much of a plan beyond getting myself to the archive, where I hope the truth will make me free. Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that, Melanie. The contrast between the heat emerging from this narrator's body and the air conditioning of this place, the kindness of the librarian, and also just the images like the father's voice, the way it comes through, and sweetheart, you don't want to write about the ranch, and then his Emerald City and the following the Yellow Book Road. So her so much wanting to make sense of why the parents were wanting to go out there. Thank you so very much. This all too is going to be a book to be looking for. And what's the title of your book, Melanie? Do you have one?
Well, I've had many over. Right now, I'm calling it Broken White Lines Flying.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so next we have Zite Ezeh, and thank you so much for reading for us.
Yeah, hello everyone. It's good to be here. I will also be reading a novel excerpt, and it's from an in-progress novel. I'm gonna just, yeah, drop you in the middle. Okay. As Falarin's chosen family remembered him in their own ways, I found a memory that was just mine. Not even God, as removed as they are from the people, could share in this. I thought of the moments Falarin spent free falling through the sky. Weightless, airy. I will admit I added some body to the chasm below him, slowed his fall so that he could stay weightless for just a little longer. He didn't think of much as he fell. He'd expected to feel free once his life was no longer in his hands, but he just felt small, insignificant. In the water below him, the rippling moon, the one I had promised shone just for him, taunted him with its twinkle, shining just as bright as it had before he jumped. He saw the doves flying above him, their movements smooth, uninterrupted by his turbulent descent. He was nothing to them. And then he hit the water with a heavy, painful crack, and everything came flooding in. He breathed and tasted all the rotting, pulsing, salty, howling, toothy, blackened things that screamed life. And at the end of this tunnel, after he had landed in the belly of the void, he saw Dozier. Dozier's reluctant smile, his spoiled tooth, the sound of Dozier's laughter when it was just for Falarin's ears, Dozier's unruly afro that bent for no comb or iron, the promises Dozier had kissed into Falarin's damp skin, Dozier's eyes, the ones that saw past all the bege into the depths of a person, the note that he should have left for Dozier, letting him know that this was not his fault. I was right there with Falarin, and still he was thinking of Dozier. It was the thoughts of Dozier, in fact, that gave Falarin his second wind. He could still see the moon illuminating the surface of the water, and he tried to swim towards it, but the impact of the fall had broken his legs, and the pull of the ocean was so strong. The current would have overwhelmed even an unbroken man. I don't blame you, Fala. I understand what it feels like to be abandoned, to hit the very bottom of yourself and find that there's still so much further left to fall, to choose anything but that. Your spirit was always too gentle for such a hard world. You should know that I avenged you. You loved Dozier too much to see him for what he was, but I see him. Till the very end, he remained a coward, scampering away from anything that forced him to look himself in the eye. You and he were supposed to be my triumph. I could have laid you both before God if you had just listened to me, and now you are nothing. Dust. Thank you.
We are in a world there. Thank you. The image, the power of this narrator to slow this fall and to we get glimpses of what these relationships were, but I want so much to know more. The Dozier's sort of saying the power of hitting the bottom of yourself and finding out that there's so much further to still to fall was an incredible line in there. Do you have a title for this novel?
No, it's still untitled.
Untitled. All right. Well, we shall look for you as the author. And actually, any of you, when you publish, you should let Straw Dog Writers Guild and Edith Wharton's The Mountain know so that we can publicize your work. All right, so we are turning to the last cohort. So it's going to be Mason Wray, Darlene Elias, Thaddeus Haas, and Michael Plunkett are reading in that order. So Mason, you are up right now.
Okay. Hi. Yeah, I worked on a number of things at the Mount, but I finally sort of figured out the final thread in my manuscript, which is great. And so I worked on that over the summer, and now I'm hopefully sending that out places. I am sending it out places, but that doesn't mean anything. So yeah, it's a manuscript about like Alzheimer's and time, and also lost baseball stadiums and a lot of other things. But I've learned that like reading a lot of Alzheimer poems at readings is like not particularly fun for anyone. They're really good in a book, you know, but it's kind of like brings the mood down a little bit. So I'm gonna read some other poems that are not that from my book. Yeah. This first poem is called Geometry. A rectangle is a square. A triangle can be a hat if you're bad at drawing. The largest American pyramid is a Bass Pro Shop in Memphis, Tennessee. Acute is cute in fake Italian. Time is a straight line unless it's a spiral. The future is a field you shape. The past, a spoon that shapes you. A cloud is usually a piano, unless it's a horse. A perfect sphere is theoretical. A perfect circle is an alternative band from the aughts. A heart is a tattoo cradling a mom. One cone on your head is dunce. Too many dip cones are no longer delicious. This is a no-cone win situation. A cube is a wheel that doesn't work very well. All right, this next poem is called Anthropocenic Route. Hurricane names recycle until one version makes us forget the others. Then they're retired like a jersey in an awful hall of fame. During Hugo, my mother pushed me into existence while existence pushed a catamaran into town hall. Boom, no more Hugos. Less thought of is why we anthropomorphize it all. Meanwhile, sea turtles dive under cyclones, unbreathing for an hour. Turtles don't call anything names. For hundreds of years, Americans called turtles delicious. Yesterday, Mara called me from MoMA and mentioned Warhol never painted Campbell's condensed turtle because he didn't think he could do it justice. Today, enjoying sea turtle soup is a crime. According to Andy, so is not enjoying it. The big difference between sea turtles and hurricanes is people haven't figured out how they could make hurricanes extinct. All right, this is the last poem I'm gonna read. And it's called Transmigrate Me Tender, as in love me tender, but transmigrate me tender. Such a bamboozle to be recycled from everything prior. Dinosaur urine, the box of pop rocks I guzzle before our inaugural kiss. My ancestors sigh. The sidewalk topiary shakes its feathers like wind. Oh, I sweat the little love thing still during this era of extinction. Thanks for asking. Everywhere we wander in the woods of this gloomy country, the elms sleep, painted white to resemble the indoors, its citizens preferring to die in a forest that matches their living rooms. Evening evaporates. An amateur scientist singes your hair into a bob, says, be the short change you want to see. I want to see how vulnerably we decorated ourselves in a past life. Your scandalous pelts, my suit of armor with its built-in emergency switch that opened every bronze flap when hope was lost, like a flock of ill-evolved birds accepting their flightless. In the future, I'd prefer to kiss you as an optimist. Maybe if I always hold the door, I'll reincarnate more benign, come back as wind. Or maybe if I'm really good, we won't come back. Thanks.
Wow. Well, I'm sorry not to hear one of your Alzheimer's poems, but these were delightful to hear, and it's not quite the right word, just very engaging, and some phrases that really caught me. Of the largest pyramid is the Bass Pro Shop, largest pyramid in the United States, and then in America there was another American called Turtles Delicious. So there's this commentary about the world. And the mother pushed me into existence while existence pushed a catamaran into the shore. And that was just an amazing configuration there as well. So thank you, Mason. Next up is Darlene Elias, and she came to the Mount as the Straw Dog Emerging Writer Fellow, and joined the last cohort. So Darlene.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much. I want to say I really enjoyed my residency at the Mount, and it's something that I strongly encourage all people to do. And when I talk to people, I ask them to apply because it was really a great experience. And I really enjoyed my cohort as well. So I am working right now on two different kinds of books. One of them is about my life, which was a compilation of essays and poetry. I'm a multi-genre person, and my first love really is poetry. But when I was at the Mount, I kind of worked on both, in addition to some creative, non-creative work. I've been thinking about my opening to my memoir, and I've done different renditions and different versions of it. But I'm going to share with you actually the piece that I felt helped me win the fellowship. I think it was my strongest piece. I had submitted 3. So this is the one I'm going to read, and I called it Mi Cuento. Okay. The coquilles and large raindrops on the tin roof synced a harmonious and gentle sound, loud enough to announce our arrival in the heavens above. But the tears of my heart and soul were still burning from the pain of my loss. It was dark and rainy that first night at Abuela's in Arroyo, Puerto Rico. I cried all night. I did not understand why the walls of Abuela's cement house was gray and dingy. In New York City, the walls were painted white and the windows had curtains. I did not want to sleep in a dirty house. Mommy made us sleep in a bed with a net to guard us from mosquitoes and flying cockroaches. In the Bronx, I only had to worry about mice. At 6 years old, I was oblivious to what was coming. Abuela soothed me with the tale of a mouse that visits and leaves coins when a tooth is left under the pillow. Just before we arrived, my front tooth had just fallen out. Abuela told me the fairy godmother only visits children in America. I was born in Manhattan, New York. So Mommy was sure that I would have the best of both worlds. This night, I only remember seeing an angel with the face of my father kneeled by my side. La Isla del Encanto is what it's called. I threw up on my first plane trip to the island. Mommy did not want to move to Puerto Rico. Abuela told her that if we didn't leave with her, she would call the welfare department. She took care of us for a long time while Mommy was in the hospital. Gerard Alexander was born weighing only 2 pounds, and it was a miracle that they were still alive. The doctor told Mommy she only has 6 months to live. Papi loved all of us enough to let us go. I have cried ever since. I knew things would never be the same. Before we departed, Papi's last words to me was, "Don't talk to strangers." He wanted to make sure I knew how to tell the difference between a good stranger and a bad one. He looked at his shoes and told me, "Good people wear nice shoes." Papi always wore nice shoes, so I was sure I would be able to tell the difference. I never realized how valuable his advice would be until I started to venture out on my own. I wanted to stop the clock and turn back time. I loved Papi, and so did Mommy. Papi was a hopeless romantic. He used to chase Mommy all over the house, and she used to sing to him, "What's it all about, Alfie?" I convinced him that this song was how my brother, who is a year younger than me, came to have his name. I always wondered if he understood the significance. The first son always carries the father's name and the family legacy. My father's name was Raphael. For a whole year, he sent gifts. My favorite was the elephant with tears that replayed the song. "I can see clearly now, the rain is gone, boom, 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 boom. I can see all obstacles in my way, boom, 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 boom. It is going to be a bright, bright, sunshiny day." These are tunes which elicit lasting memories, and there are those you forget. This one imprinted in me forever because I still cry whenever I hear it. I woke in the morning to the sounds of the rooster and a pillow over my head. I did not want to get out of bed. Mommy insisted that I get up and have breakfast. I did not want to eat. There was no telling what would be dished up in a kitchen that had no curtains. Maybe avena, if I was lucky. I was not. I found Mommy with Abuela at the kitchen table. Abuela put a tepid cup of café con leche before me when I sat down. It was her usual black cup of coffee with no sugar. This cup had café from Puerto Rico, coffee boiled in a carafe, filtered through a cloth strainer with added boiled milk and sugar to make it taste just right. My abuela proudly told me, my abuela probably told my mother that the coffee beans were hand-picked from a finca nearby. Black shiny beans did not seem so appealing to me at the time. Yet the coffee cup presented itself as irresistible. The sugar smell called out to me. It said my name, "Dali, Dali," with musicality. I saw crackers floating inside the cup when I got closer. Abuela handed me a spoon. Inquisitively, I looked at her, thinking out loud, "What am I supposed to do with that?" She put the spoon in the cup as if I were about to eat ice cream. It all seemed strange to me. I went from eating cold milk and cereal in a bowl to eating coffee, milk, sugar, and crackers in a cup. It tasted like nothing I had ever had before. Although it was strange, I could not resist. I could not get enough as I slurped the wet brown crackers off my spoon. From the corner of my eye, I peered at Mommy and Abuela all while slurping. They looked at each other and smiled. I could not help but think it was weird to eat coffee, but it tasted so good. At the kitchen table, Abuela asked me if the mouse stopped by last night. Quickly, I remembered that I forgot my tooth and smiled at her. Mommy said fairy godmothers are quiet, so I would have not noticed. I ran to the room, and there on the bed was a shiny quarter. With glee, I held it in my hands and rubbed it. "Should I spend it or should I save it?" said a voice in my head. "Alfie is going to be so mad," the voice continued. I put the quarter in my pocket. I didn't change into my pajamas last night. I wanted to go back home. I ran to Abuela, hugged her, and told her she has a mouse in the house. I never said anything about the fairy godmother who visited me that looked like my father. And I'll leave it there.
Gosh, Darlene, that image, the way you wove the mouse and the fairy godmother back in at the end, and I didn't change into my pajamas because I wanted to go back home, and the real surprise of the strangeness of this coffee mixture and the crackers being something that this narrator couldn't resist. So, and the phrase of, at 6, I was oblivious to what was coming. All I had to worry about was mice there. So thank you so much. So much. I appreciate that. All right. So Thaddeus Haas is up next.
Hi. Okay. Yeah, so this is from a piece that I worked on while I was there. It's part of what I'm calling an informational memoir about a time period when I was a wildland firefighter out west, and a rather elite version of a wildland firefighter, something called a hotshot, which is an unfortunate name, I agree, but that's what it's called. And so this is sort of my exploration and into what it means to be a hotshot. Unfortunately, I can't give you the answer in 5 minutes, but I'll give you a hint. I'll just start. It's called A Hotshot Walks into a Grocery Store. I woke up to the howl of wolves on a ridge east of Stevensville, Montana. The night had been long, cold, and blustery. I'd slept in the clothes I'd been wearing for the past 10 days, which included 2 pairs of socks, green Nomex fire pants, and my bitterroot tea emblazoned with a bugling elk. I'd thrown on a beanie and a hoodie for some extra coziness and stuffed myself inside not 1, but 2 sleeping bags. I was snug as a bug in a rug. As the sun crested over the mountains, I heard them off in the distance. At first, I thought I was dreaming, never having heard an actual wolf before. Their howls were eerie, lonesome, beautiful, and wild. They were on the move, circling in the canyon below us. But I could imagine them down there, protected in the trees, yellow eyes peering through the undergrowth. As they got closer and closer, the howls grew louder and louder. I laid there, entranced, marveling at my good luck as a litany of threats promising torture and death erupted from the sleeping bags all around me. It turned out not everyone was excited by the reemergence of the large-scale predator on the Western landscape. In fact, I was the only one. This fact made the obvious even more apparent. I wasn't a local. I wasn't lucky enough to have been born under the big sky. But as the bumper sticker said, albeit about Texas, I got here as fast as I could. It reminded me that when I was a kid, I lied about being born in Montana. I didn't have any connection to Montana at the time. I probably would have struggled to find it on a map, but I knew the capital was Helena because that's where I said I was born. In actuality, I'd been born across the river from my hometown, Northumberland, Pennsylvania, in Sunbury, just like every other poor-ass white kid around. But I knew my parents had lived in a trailer in Montandon, 9 minutes north at the time, so I extrapolated a little. It's weird how these things have a way of coming back around. Despite my early childhood fantasies, no matter how much time I spent in Montana, I was always going to be an outsider, a bit like the wolves, I suppose. There, there we both were, just trying to live our lives in the best place on earth, doing our thing, and yet everybody seemed to have an opinion about it. I felt for them. I mean, no one was threatening to hang me up by my paws, but still, we both stood out. It both helped and hurt that I wasn't a hunter, of course. I was free to lose myself in the wonder at their howls. I didn't care if they ate their fill of elk. As far as I was concerned, elk and wolf were all part of the same big ecosystem. And it hurt because I saw the world this way, which of course made me different from everyone around me. The path I'd taken to get here wasn't the norm. Well, okay, that's not exactly true. I ducked and covered out of the same helicopter that had taxied us up there, which, by the way, was how I'd gotten the luxury of an extra sleeping bag. No, I'm talking bigger picture. The path I'd taken to join the ranks of the elite wildland firefighting world wasn't typical. Before waking up on the side of many a mountain covered in ash, face streaked with black and eyes bloodshot from smoke and dirt, I was on track to live the life of a tenured professor in the ivory towers of academia. Before having my life uprooted by forces beyond my control, I'd spent the better part of 3 years studying wildness at the University of North Texas as part of their graduate environmental philosophy program, only to end up just another monkey wearing a pack for a living. The fact that I'd wasted the better part of my 20s sitting behind a computer thinking about the woods meant a couple of things. It meant my relationship to the wolves was less complicated, sort of. On this morning, they reminded me where I'd come from. Oddly enough, it wasn't as far of a trip as you might imagine. I mean, I probably had more formal education than anyone around me at the time, which in the grand scheme of things didn't mean shit. There were plenty of guys who were in the process of earning advanced degrees, but it was the guys who'd spent their lives in the woods that I really envied. They'd been working fires and sharpening Pulaskis and chainsaws while I was kicked back in an air conditioned office honing obscure arguments. I had a lot of catching up to do when it came to their skills and knowledge. There's a certain familiarity that comes from growing up in the woods. You learn how to pick up your feet and put them down so that you're less likely to trip over that one stupid root poking out of the trail at the worst possible angle. You learn how to carry and swing a tool without getting it snagged on every branch. You learn to constantly look up, scanning the trees all around and above you, because if anything's going to kill you, it's most likely coming from up there. Turns out trees aren't your friends. You also learn to hike uphill by straightening your bottom leg in order to save energy and move more quickly, as opposed to pushing down with your top one. The great thing about all this is that if you keep your mouth shut, watch people, and ask some questions, the guys who know will teach you. It's amazing what you can learn when you don't pretend you know everything. And I'm going to stop there.
Wow, it's a world that we want to hear more about. Just struck by, at the end, by the difference between the people who've been in the woods fighting fires and they're sharpening their tools versus this narrator honing these sort of obscure arguments. And it's amazing what you can learn when you don't pretend like you know everything. So, and then just the thing about the parents living in a trailer in Montana and extrapolating that out to being born in Montana. So I like the honesty of this writer. And we'll look forward to hearing more about what we could hear in the 5 minutes. So thank you, Thaddeus. So Michael, you are next and our ultimate reader. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks for having me. Thanks for everybody for reading and putting some stuff out there. My only regret about doing this program is I didn't get to meet everybody. Although I love my cohort as much as my family, but it's really cool to see so many different projects coming out here. I hope we stay in touch. Feel free to reach out to me if you want to exchange some writing or whatever. I'd be happy to read more of any of the stuff we've heard here. But so I've just published a novel. I spent the last couple of weeks reading from it repeatedly, so I'm not going to read from that tonight. This is one of the things I loved about the residency was it came right after I basically turned in the final draft of my novel. So I was at this terminal end of a project, and while that was kind of scary in some ways, after having to leave a world that I'd spent the previous few years hanging out in, it was really freeing to just get to Massachusetts and just run wild with new projects and new ideas I had. So in that same vein, seeing as I'm coming to another type of end, I'm going to read a draft of a short story I've been playing around with about it's about a guy and his relationship with his dentist, but I'm really trying to explore the ideas of what trust and vulnerability and what that kind of a relationship can be like. So this is called After Hours. My dentist keeps emergency hours from 10 at night until 5 in the morning, 3 nights a week. I can see his office from my 4th floor apartment. It's directly across from it. A narrow and empty street, save for a row of parked vehicles crammed up behind one another, is all that separates us. The office takes up the entire 1st floor, which is set partially below street level. The first 2 windows are always lit on the nights he is in. All the others remain dark. On this particular night, a low drone drifted from the Cross Island Parkway, rhythmic and unending, the sound of the earth turning. The starless sky had a bone-dry, matte quality to it, which ashy clouds rolled like wheels over desert sands. I wanted to reach out my window and pluck each one from the sky. I wanted to pull them all in until there was none left. And once it was empty, I wanted to reach out again and poke my fingers straight through that sky to see what other worlds were behind it. I watched his windows glow from my bedroom window, a pair of sleepy eyes, the blinds hanging low. I imagined shooting a line across to his window and sliding across in one swift motion. He felt that close. His windows radiated something warm and familiar. Out further, I could see other windows glowing as well, but I did not know who was in their light, and I could not feel their warmth. The pane of my window was cold to the touch, and on its surface, I could see little grease spots and crisscross patterns where my nose had touched in the past. He picked up on the third ring. "You really need to stop calling me," he said. He always says this, but he always picks up. "Slow night?" I asked. "So far." "That's surprising. Well, it usually gets busy after 1. Nothing good happens after 1, I said. "It is Saturday, though. I feel like if there were any night of the week where people might need emergency dental procedures, it would be on a Saturday." "The trauma ones, sure," he said. "But root canals, those happen all week round. Wednesdays have been particularly busy lately. Speaking of, when are you coming in?" I avoided the question. "Are most of these people in network? I can't imagine they're thinking about that when they roll in. The margins have to be incredible." I thought I heard him sigh. "I don't keep after hours just to be a nice guy." A car cut down the street and slammed to a stop in front of the office. It parked at a bizarre angle to the curb, leaving most of its bumper in the street. This is usually how they arrive. "Hold on," he said, "I have someone coming in." And he hung up. I put down my phone and walked into the kitchen where I filled the kettle and set it to boil on the stove. I poured the water into the mug and allowed the bag to steep. The appointment he mentioned had come and gone a week ago, but the pain that caused me to schedule it in the first place had remained constant, dull, and throbbing. If anything, it had gotten a little worse. I had been using every excuse in the book to avoid rescheduling. My work schedule, my maxed out UCR fee, the missed appointment rebooking fee, all the fees. I held my mug in both hands as I walked back to the window. The car was gone. I picked up my phone and dialed his number. He did not pick up. I called again. Nothing. The lights were still on, and through the blinds I could see the suggestion of movement. I waited until the tea had gone cold, its leaves bitter. I set down the mug and went to get my coat. The elevator ride down to the lobby was smooth and silent. I buried my hands in my coat pockets, and little bits of paper and sand and all the other crumbly pieces of things that people discard swirled around my feet as I crossed the street. The wind was just cold enough to be unpleasant, and I balled my hands into fists. I walked into the darkened vestibule of the office where his name was stenciled on the glass. My nose leaked and the tips of my fingers were numb. The door to the waiting room was to my right. The light spilled through the glass onto thin carpeting, worn through by the tracks of millions of patients who had all made this same journey to my dentist. A bell chimed as I opened the door and entered the waiting room. An empty desk. It was just after 2 a.m. according to the clock on the wall, and all the chairs were empty. A copy of People magazine lay open on a side table. The air was heavy with fluoride and drilled bone. He hadn't bothered to put on the radio. I took a seat and closed my eyes. One unending sigh from the HVAC filled the space. "Just a minute," I heard him say from somewhere in the office. I said nothing in return. You can start filling out that form on the counter if you're able to." There was the sound of unidentifiable items being shuffled around in a closet. I felt heat rising in my chest. It was now or never. In a moment, I was through the door that led to the examination rooms and dental hygiene posters with their cross sections of tooth anatomy. I caught him right as he exited the supply closet. He wore his white coat over a gingham button-down and khakis. His mustache was coming in nicely. I had suggested he grow it out. He appeared surprised for only a moment before he regained his composure. "So," he asked, "are you ready?" I'll stop there.
Ooh,
Wow.
nice, nice, nice.
It's after your introduction, I just was such a surprise to have this view from the fourth floor apartment down to these warm, glowing eyes, and the sort of the mix of like scared patient and stalker together in there. Um, Thank you. The smell of fluoride and drilled bone was a particularly powerful one at the end there, and the description of the dental hygiene posters. So thank you, everyone. And I would like to just open it up to folks if anybody wishes to ask a question or say out loud an appreciation. If anybody wants to hang around after our time is up, we said we would end it by 5:15. If any of the cohorts especially would want to stick around and talk with each other, you're welcome to, or talk about your experience at the Mount. So any questions from our audience or comments that anybody wants to make? Stephanie?
Well, it's not a question, it's a comment and a compliment. As one of the group that visited you on your first day a year ago, I believe, I am just absolutely blown away. Your writing is just phenomenal. Everybody's writing is phenomenal. I feel like I am never going to put fingers to a keyboard again because I cannot compete. But I just love
to be inspired, Stephanie. Sorry.
I'm so happy
inspired.
that I'm so happy that I came. I mean, I'm so happy that this is being recorded because we need to share it with more people. I mean, you're all, you're going to have an incredible time as a writer. And I'm so happy for you. It's great.
I'll just open it up to anybody that would like to have a question or comment or anything else. Appreciation.
Mason, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Darlene.
Mason, I want dibs on your poetry book, okay? Real quick, let us know. We should have like some sort of direct line going on here. It's coming. For everybody's work, it's coming out.
Trust me, if and when my book is in the world, you'll all be really sick of me bombarding you from, whatever possible way I can tell you about it. So don't worry.
Do any of you want to talk about the impact of being at the Mount for you, of getting this residency? Like if it was yeah. I don't want to put words in anybody's mouth, but Irene? Oh, you're pointing to Lizzy. You're pointing to Irene.
Well, I feel like Lizzy is going to express a similar sentiment, so I'll let her express that one. But I just want to give a cool anecdote about it, which is that this was my first residency, and it meant so much to me. Everyone at the Mount was so wonderful, and my fellow writers during my week were just absolutely so special. But I remember I live in LA, so AWP was about a mile away from where I lived, and I got a Sunday pass for $25, and I was like, what is this all about? And I carried my Edith Wharton bag. I was walking down the hall, and suddenly I see a very well-dressed figure with the exact same bag coming towards me. And that is the first time Brenton and I saw each other when we were both back in LA.
Oh,
really special.
And sweet that you saw each other's bags.
Yeah.
Lizzy, did you have a thing to say?
Yeah, I'm been hoping that I can find the right words, but I think that it was just an incredibly validating experience, an experience of feeling extremely valued. And I think, wherever you are in your writing life, and certainly as an emerging writer, there's just so many, there are highs and lows, there's a lot of lows, there's a lot of troughs, there's a lot of rejection, there's a lot of feeling like I'm sitting in a room alone for an inappropriate amount of time doing things that, will they reach anybody? Do they matter? Why? There's a lot of that. And I think, to be invited to spend time in this incredible just like ridiculous, like to go to work in the most beautiful place that I've ever like imagined anyone going to work, with people who are like so serious about what they're doing and inspiring by just like, I don't know, putting their heads down and working on their like these worlds that are inside their heads while you are like working on whatever's inside. It's just a giant gift. And I'm gonna stop talking because I'm saying the same thing in like a different way every sentence, but I'm really grateful for it. So thank you.
Well, thank you, everyone. I would say I will officially release us. And let's stop recording. And then if anybody else wants to hang out, you're welcome to do that.